which one? That would be me. Let's say Stilton.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be what I go out with.
It's pretty good, actually, yeah.
Not bad, is it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I like those ones. Okay, what's his next question?
Have you ever flown a kite?
Have you?
Well, we know you have. You told
There's photographic evidence of me flying a kite.
Story of it earlier in the summer.
We had a great time at St Anne's Kite Festival. We picked one up there and I went out and flew it. We had a wonderful time.
I probably have, but I don't... It was probably when I was a kid. It's probably one of the memories I've repressed.
It's worrying and terrifying that you feel like the repression of a kite flying memory, which to most people would be the sort of...
Oh, I didn't want to have
cherished and heralded kind of like, you know, Polaroid that you look at through rose-tinted glasses of your childhood.
I remember happy memories of my childhood.
Well, it makes it so much easier for you to be the man you are today if you don't, doesn't it?
I resent my parents, not appreciate.
Well, you're doing a tremendous job. Right, next question.
I probably didn't do it well if I did, so it's probably one of those things where I made a mistake.
You regret
so I was beating myself up over it. so obviously at some point in my growing up, I learned to repress all that shit stuff I did as a child.
So there's been a point at which where you've had this kind of...
I obviously have a cleanse like every few years. So in a few years, I'll not remember that I've called this guy Marcus.
I have visions now of you having this kind of like a childlike Mark having this Swiss Tony-esque conversation with yourself after you've flown a cat. Mark, what are you doing? You've got to get it, and just like destroying yourself over average kite flying. You've got to give yourself a break, man.
The next question is one I like particularly from Langers. He said, who has been the most surprising signing in Super League ever by a club? Well, I don't know if he meant by the club we support or any club, because it sort of grammatically went a bit wrong right at the end there. So let's just go with both. Any club and your club.
Well, I've seen your answer
to this,
and I don't think I can top that. Because it was way out of left field, but I'll let you deliver it. One of the ones I remember.
Have you come up with it?
No. I was glad you reminded me. No, the one I'd come up with in terms of like it raising an eyebrow was 2005, 2006 when Abe Morley came on loan to Bradford. That surprised me in a good way. But at the same time, parallel to that, Joey Johns coming and playing a couple of games for Warrington.
Yeah.
Surprised me as well. And obviously, it was at a time when Warrington was struggling down in the lower echelons of the division. They were out of the playoff race, and Andrew Johns came over and reignited them in terms of enthusiasm and in terms of fan support.
It
at that
almost
part
was
of the season.
The start of what became
that
like a regular competitive side.
But to see someone of Joey Johns' calibre, and at that time, it wasn't, he wasn't, and he was not long after that retired, but it wasn't like he was on the downturn. And he came in and he was marvellous and really showed his class. Yeah. And it stood out even more. Like when he was putting like kicks in for someone like Toa Koi Love to go over and stuff like that, who were remarkably average players, but he was making the people around him at Warrington at the time look exceptional for those 2 or 3 games he played for them, or the ones I saw anyway.
Yeah,
so that surprised me. But go on, who's the real surprise?
Well, the one that jumped out. What I'll do is I'll cover off like a Wigan signing first. Probably it was a non-playing one. It was the appointment of Ian Millwood, and it almost sort of felt like it was destined to fail. It was at a time where we were already sort of struggling a bit with some of the emotional things that had gone on and some of the business decisions that had been made as well, and then some of the players not working out how they were supposed to, and that just made it so much worse.
Yeah, it didn't help, did it?
That into the environment. But the most surprising signing in Super League ever is Dwayne Chambers for Cass. I mean, without a doubt.
Yes.
How many games did he play in the end? 2?
2 or 3?
1 or 2?
I don't even think he got a lot of minutes.
I think he played a game against Wigan where they drew with us, 22.
Really? All I recall is like it just been a bit of fanfare and a bit of bullshit, and he never really grasped the game. And it was just about putting the ball in his hand and thinking because he was pacey that he would suddenly tear people in half. But you can't teach people
like a step and side step.
Just because he's fast doesn't mean he's going to suddenly like read a game and have a sidestep. And
it's not like American football where someone else can get in front of the fast guy and help
for him
find a lane to run through.
He just does have to do that work himself. As much of an athlete as he was, and I know that look, at the end of the day, Dwayne Chambers made a few decisions that I'm sure he's come to regret in terms of where he put his career. But just because you're fast and an athlete that's a sprinter, he's not been engaged in a sport where physical contact was the order of the day. So it was just an astounding. It felt like more like a publicity thing for me from the RFL overall than like anything that would be good for Dwayne Chambers personally.
Yeah.
For him doing that. In fact, I worried for his general well-being.
Well, maybe so. On a similar sort of theme, who has been the most disappointing Super League signing ever? And again, I think by your club and then by all the clubs.
Ever is a tricky one. The most disappointing...
You don't remember all of them,
exactly. The most disappointing for me personally, from a Bulls point of view, was Matt Orford.
Yeah, he would be high up the list.
Which was, and perhaps even ever, really, because he came over, he was a rep player, he'd won grand finals in Australia. He came over at a time when you wouldn't say he was on the downturn of his career, and it just didn't pan out. And it was an element of homesickness and things like that. And actually, the way he went about, he picked up an injury. He played, actually, his first 5 or 6 games for us, he was really good. And I was right on the Matt Orford bandwagon. He picked up a shoulder injury, and never really came back from it. And then he went home for treatment and just said, I'm not coming back. And I can almost understand it, because he'd come from Manly and the Australian lifestyle, and Bradford is a billion miles away from that. So I can kind of get on board with it. But it was disappointing from my point of view that we had this little glimpse of real, legit quality, which we would later go on to experience with people like Beaver when they came and played for us as well. But with Matt Orford, there was this glimpse of like, oh my God, we've got a real talent, real legit talent here. And then it just... He
was high up on my list. Yeah, from a Wigan point of view, like Andy Powell, that was both surprising and disappointing.
Did you expect Andy Powell to legitimately come in and do a good job, though?
I expected
it went the way I thought it would.
I expected more.
I wasn't. My expectations on Andy Powell were really low, mate.
I sort of thought he might apply himself a little bit more, because I thought he would have wanted the notoriety of being a cross-code convert and being successful at it.
But he was already...
I thought he would have bred off that sort of a thing, because he sort of seems that kind of guy who wants a bit of a focus of attention around him. I would like it to be positive.
I'd have gone the other way with Andy Powell. I thought he was just, in uni he was just a bit of a pisshead who got drunk and drove bloody golf carts up motorways and stuff. It didn't seem for me like he took it seriously. Yeah. He for me, was just, didn't take it, had the physical abilities, but just didn't take it seriously. Yeah. Or as seriously as he could have done to get the most out of his talent.
The real one's Dennis Moran, though.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I was expecting loads and loads from him, but he had torn teams apart quite a bit for the Broncos the year before. He was a really big try scorer, really influential in games. You'd have thought in a better side, but he was utter dog shit. The worst halfback I've ever seen in a Wigan shirt, I would say. Seguiaro as well is one that I've started to think is a big disappointment.
He is now that he's reneged on his word.
And then you have to take all of that into it, though. But the situation he's left leads in by him signing and not returning is very disappointing. Look, for the league and for the club.
Yeah, because his performances on the field led you to believe that signing for Leeds and coming out and play meant that we could potentially have 2 or 3 years of a really, really high-end player in our comp, and the disappointment is that we're not going to get to sit and watch that now, because I'm certainly won't be playing for Leeds.
Exactly,
next season, one way or another.
He says, who has written the best RL-related autobiography, and who would you most want to write one who hasn't?
The one I've read most recently that I've really enjoyed, apart from the John Keir one, was Adrian Morley's. I really enjoy it, just in terms of finding it engaging and enjoying it as a read, and then obviously the stories that go along with a guy like Moz who's played down under and been really successful, and it talks about him being offered the opportunity to play Origin and then almost trying to engineer a way that he could have done, but it would have meant him relinquishing his Great Britain claims and things like that. So there's a lot of stories in there, along with out on the piss with Carlo Napolitano getting arrested multiple times and things like that. I found that a really enjoyable one, and I actually reread Barry McDermott's the other day. I've had it on my... You lent it me. In fact, it's your copy. I could give you that.
Yeah. It's Cass's.
Right. Well, there you go. Well, we should probably give it back to Cass.
I was going to read it, but then you saw it around mine, and I hadn't got to it yet. Right. So I said you could have it to read.
Well, it's in my bedroom. I'll get it for you before you go, because I reread that about 2 weeks ago. It didn't... I know he listens, so I don't want this to sound wrong. It didn't take me long. The reason it didn't take me long is because I was enjoying reading it, not because it's the Gareth Hawke autobiography. There wasn't a colouring bit and a dot to dot out. It was a great... But again, that was a great read because Barry's backstory in terms of coming into rugby league through Oldham and his life as a semi-professional rugby league player before he went, and I think he might have been... I don't recall exactly how, but I think at one point he was almost a Bradford player as well. So that was really interesting. That was a good one. But yeah, Adrian Morley's is brilliant. And the one that I want to read, just because he holds a very, very special place in my heart, is Big Leslie's. When Leslie Vanacolo does his. I'll be at the front of the queue to read that one. He may well have done. You're looking at me like he has one out.
No.
I don't think he does.
I just don't think it'd be a sin. I don't know.
Oh, no, but I love...
It doesn't strike me as a storyteller, that's all.
I love Leslie Vanico, yeah, but more than certain dead relatives, I love Leslie Vanico.
I don't think I've actually read that many. I'm not a big autobiography kind of reader in general.
I prefer biographies, to be honest, because they tend to be better written.
The best autobiography I've read, Rugby League, is Terry Newton's.
Yeah.
I think Coming Clean was powerful, and then what happened not long after that, and then when people read, you read the second edition that came out after and stuff. And the Steve Prescott one for similar reasons, I suppose, was in a similar vein, but I'd put Terry Newton's just marginally ahead of that one.
Yeah.
The one that I'm looking forward to when it happens is Anthony Gelling's. That's going to be a hoot, isn't it?
It's going to be R-rated, isn't it? It's not going to be safe for kids. It's going to be NSFW, isn't it? What would you call the Christmas party chapter? Because there's going to have to be one devoted to it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly. No regrets, that's what you'll call it. Okay. There's another Langers question.
There, one final one from Langers. He says, where would you hold a Rugby League International if you could choose any stadium in the world?
Where in Hawaii is it that they do the NFL Pro Bowl?
Oh yeah, it was I don't know, Aloha Stadium.
Right, wicked. Let's go to Aloha Stadium because it's in Polynesia, and you'll be able to draw up some interest, and we can all go to Hawaii for a fortnight.
Yeah, let's do that. It's that affordable to just hop on a plane and get there.
Yeah, but implied within the question is obviously money is no object. So we've organised this thing. We get to go.
I've gone the exact opposite of that, and I would like to have it at Mill Farm, where AFC Style call home. Because I can walk there from my house.
You lazy twat. We're going to by the side of a road on the Fylde coast. I'm pretty sure my Hawaii idea wins there. By the way, mate.
Well, if I was being more serious, like selling out a huge stadium like Cowboy Stadium or
is that
the Dallas Cowboys Stadium?
Oh, right, Dallas Cowboys.
Or the Maracana or the New Camp or something like that. Selling out one of those would be great. Wembley, to be honest, is as good a stadium as there is for watching major sporting events.
In terms of the experience and the viewing experience, yeah, absolutely. But then obviously something like the New Camp would just be phenomenal, wouldn't it? Because of you'd be in a different place in a different part of the world, and that would be really exciting. But no, let's go to Hawaii, man.
Right, a couple for you to get your teeth into.
Tyler Cass fan, he's
Santa brought the young fella.
Does he know about Santa?
What games consoles are out there? Xbox
One,
Super
PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
Do you think he knows about Santa?
He's a shrewd lad. I think he's worked it out.
He's a smart kid. Yeah. You don't get much by Tyler Cass fan. All right. I immediately know that this is a question for you. As far as stats go, who gets credit for a tackle if there's 2 or 3 more in the tackle?
As I believe it, each player involved gets a credit on their own stats. So every player. Right. In a 2 or 3 man tackle. That's why sometimes when we go through the stats, we talk about.
That's why Sam Powell's tackle stats look so good, because he's
often second or third man in. It's actually way more than you think been the first man in. People like.
Actually, as I said Sam Powell's name, I regret it. I thought, no, that's not fair. But
then he'll then people join to help him. They all get it. Like, we'll talk sometimes about teams working a lot harder, getting shown up in the tackle numbers. When you'll see like teams have had similar numbers of carries, but one team's had loads more tackles than the other. We'll talk about that, showing that they're putting more effort in, they've got more stamina, they're getting more men around the ball to legitimately slow down the play of the ball, and that sort of stuff. And often you'll see Wigan in that, because Wigan are the fittest team in the league.
Does hair, Tyler says, or beards in our case?
Hold on.
You have hair. I mean, it's diminishing.
Well, it's still there.
You've had one of the last 4. Oh my word!
I can now count the strands on the front.
Mate, I know, but I know your hair's a bit shorter, and it was obviously on a haircut recently. Yeah. But as you dipped forward, then you're at the point now.
Oh, Shearer's Island is starting to.
Absolutely, it's ruined its ugly head, isn't it?
I'm not quite there.
Not yet. Oh, just shave it off, mate.
I'm not quite there.
Just go for me.
But I'm not quite there.
But look at what you could be.
But I'm not quite there.
Getting there, man.
Yeah, I know I'm getting there.
Getting there. 4 or 5. You're only about 4 or 5 haircuts away.
But I've been 4 or 5 haircuts away since you've known me.
It was really fucking happening now, isn't it?
Yeah, well.
Exactly. Right. He says, does hair or beards in our cases grow faster in summer or slower in winter? I checked.
Well, that's the same.
Yeah.
And not all.
Faster and slower.
Right.
Yeah, faster in summer and slower in winter. I googled this. No, there's no difference.
I've got no idea.
Yeah, no, I checked it out.
You did a bit of prep.
Yeah.